Hello, morning. Just got done seeing a derived energy video to Wise Monkey, and I thought, God, this whole thing is really pretty crazy, right? And I keep focusing in on the intransitives, and some guy like Metamorph thinks I'm semantically hopping, right? Which is fine, I guess. I mean, I don't care what people say, and I don't care who agrees with whom. Um, and part of my naming the last video was a throwing, what baby gets thrown out with the bathwater, ration gets thrown out with the bathwater. Of course, then Gary believes that logic exists in the world and math exists in the world instead of being like partially a human practice, a human practice that describes the world. He thinks that truth exists out in the world. The shape of a pine cone is mathematical, not that mathematics describe the pine cone. So we'll let Gary, in his juvenile way, retain that thought. That's fine. People that get it understand that there's a bit of a duality between discovery and invention with regards to mathematics. But anyway, back to the derived energy and back to the David Benatar idea. Coming into existence and imposition are things that I just want to talk about briefly. Coming into existence. The word coming, right, is transitive in this. Coming into existence. There's a direction. There's a lingual sense that's made by using the phrase coming into existence. But when one says, well, where did thou come from? Where didst thou come from? And if the answer is nowhere, non-existence, then that's absurdity. There is no non-existence from which thou could have came. Thou only is, right? And this is my point of re-emphasizing the it. It is what it is, right? Because this notion of coming into existence would be something like, hey, where did I come from? Well, I don't know. I just arrived here, right? And I can say that in casual conversation, and people don't have any disagreement. But there's disagreement when using terms like coming or arriving. Well, where did I arrive from? Oh, well, nowhere. My dad's scrotum, my mom's ova, No. I just was. All of a sudden, I became, right? Even the word became, right, is kind of weird because of where did I become from, right? It's more like I am. At one point, I started, right? Where did I start from? Even using the term started and coming and arriving, right? That's why I'm saying I just am. Ultimately, there's a point from which my being began, but prior to that, there is no referent, right? And that is the problem with what I say is the use of transitives or intransitives or abuses. That's the whole problem, right? The David Benatarian phrase coming into existence, the mere fact that it can be phrased in terms of coming or arriving into existence points back to what he's going to utilize as part of his argumentation of non-existence, and then talk about attributes of the non-existence from which we are to make comparisons to existence. Such as this notion of absenting pain from a non-existent entity as being good. I think the phrase, how does he phrase it? I think he says, absence of pain is good even if that good is not enjoyed by anyone. So here we have a ghostly, non-existent thing that I guess we're going to say exists, that is before the coming, right? That doesn't experience anything, any good, but that is good, even if the good is not enjoyed by anyone. Okay, even if this non-existent thing is not enjoying any non-existent pain, right? How is it applied to it, right? Even though it's not applied to it, that is good, right? Okay, so my is, it is what it is kind of a starting base in which to reapproach ethics, right? And I'm not trying to say that I don't think that there's things that are good and bad in the world, but in the case of getting to the way in which the Benatarian argument is argued, using these words such as coming and arriving and so forth, imply a preexistence. Now, the preexistence, right, like Mormon philosophy I know has a preexistence. Souls are existing prior to, so if Gary wants to be religious or derived energy, so be it. Otherwise, their very referent is simply a vernacular use of the term. Oh, I came into, oh, I just arrived. I showed up, I was a twinkle in your mom and dad's eye, right? They're phrases that we can use, but if someone wants to get serious about philosophy, they really need to look at the language and look at where this signified is pointing. And then to grant attributes to a non-existent thing is absurd. Okay, and so anyway, then the word imposition comes into play, right? Life is imposed upon me, or upon you, or upon sentient beings. No, once again, that would imply that there is a pre-existing thing, soul, if you will. If you're going to be religious, then I'll drop my argument. You just admit that you're religious and that you believe in a pre-existing thing from which a body or sentience can be imposed upon you, right? As soon as you agree to that, then I'll drop this, right? I mean, I'll drop it anyway because I don't have time for all this bullshit. But the whole point is that if you're going to use the Benatarian argument and reference pre-existing things from which life is imposed upon, right? If you're going to use that, then out of the gate you're religious. And if you want to say no, then I'll just say you're being vernacular. Okay, then you're just going to use vernacular terms, right? But the mere fact is you are the body that is the condition of sentience that experiences and has pain and pleasure and feeling, right? These are components of your very definition. And this is why so many people think that antinatalists that are using this argument are wusses, they're pussies, they're pussies. It's like, Gary, oh, I got a migraine, I fell down on the bunny slope, and now I'm going to whine because life didn't turn out the way I wanted. I got hair, and I think I'm okay, and I'm really rational, and I'll take my junior IS to the tubes. But whatever, right? Whatever the fuck. I don't give a shit. The point is this, though. The point is if one wants to say that sentience is posed upon them and they don't see the difference that they themselves are the condition that experiences sentience, if they can't make that distinction, right? If you can't make that distinction, that you are that which has this, right? Instead of saying, then do what Anton suggested. Start formulating a class action lawsuit against parents for murder and suffering and genocide right out of the gate. And all of this, of course, you know, derived energy, the idea of a death sentence, right? You don't have a death sentence. You are an organism that will die. You're not sentenced to death. As a matter of fact, as soon as you enter into language, after you're born, but before you're prelingual, right? If that makes sense to speak of prelingual, right? You don't understand your future, the future of your demise, right? Until you've learned language. Learning language allows all of this to happen, right? It allows this fool's gold to go on in this dialogue, right? To chase after this pre-existing X that has a body and sentience imposed upon it and suffering that needs to be reduced. I'm sorry. I am sorry that you guys are too fucking obtuse to get it, and Metamorph saying, oh, another guy using semantical hoops to get around the suffering. You know, I think I've checked out. I don't even know if I've checked out his channel. I'll have to check it out, right? But all I know is I sat there and I thought, oh man, what kind of minions and yes men follow along. Like, how many people are so obtuse as to not see this very... I think it's a very subtle difference, and I think Gary waxes over biological narratives, natural language, and logical language, and he bounces back and forth the two without knowing he's doing it, right? He hasn't made a distinction between the two. He doesn't see that these are two different things. Okay, anyway, I'm going to, I guess, upload another video here in a few minutes, just kind of breaking down, once again, more visually with Venn diagrams, or a couple of them. I don't know, some things. Thanks.